Like Tomizawa, a third-generation Japanese American, the Tokyo Olympics have been about more than just sport. Half a century ago, when Japan first hosted the Games in 1964, his father, Thomas, was right here covering them as a TV producer for NBC. Now, Roy has been watching them at home without Thomas, who has since passed away.
I wish he were here today, but yeah, it would be wonderful if we could stand here together.
His father's stories of the 1964 Games prompted Roy to write a book on how those Olympics showcased Japan's rise from the ashes of the Second World War.
1964 was only 19 years after the end of the war, the Second World War. And in 1945, much of this area, particularly further east, was all in rubble.
As part of the book, Roy talked to more than 70 former Olympians to find out why 1964 was a tipping point for Japan.
When all of the foreign athletes came to Japan, they had, memories of images of Japan in rubble. But when they came here, they were amazed to see this modern city. I think that was the most important thing for the Japanese, to be reaccepted by the global community.
With the Olympic flame barely extinguished at Tokyo 2020, already the focus in Japan has turned to the legacy of the Games. Organizers initially wanted to showcase the country's recovery from the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. They also tried to engage people across Japan, from volunteers to schools, to promote sports and the Olympic spirit across all generations. But the pandemic changed everything. The one-year delay, the ban on spectators, and loss of interest by sponsors all led to less engagement.
I mean, much of the engagement, the public engagement, which is at the heart of the Tokyo legacy, is premised on the activation of different partners and sponsors programs. And we all know that Toyota and other sponsors have announced that they're not going to organize any mass gatherings. So in other words, they're not going to activate their sponsorship.
Twisting the Games this year were intense heat in Tokyo.
It is the biggest metro area in the world. That comes with a lot of concrete. It is a urban jungle there. So what happens is you get that urban heat island effect, and all of that absorbs heat a lot quicker than the surrounding environment.
Researchers have warned, though, the problem goes beyond Tokyo. According to medical journal The Lancet, in 60 years, most cities could be too hot for the Summer Games because of climate change. But it's not all been bad news. Tokyo 2020 has also highlighted diversity, issues of mental health, and sustainability, prompting wider discussions of important subjects still considered taboo by some. The Tokyo Olympics were also the most gender-balanced Summer Games in history, with more LGBTQ athletes than ever.
I agree. Through the opening of the Games, I could see a lot of inclusion and a lot of open-mindedness. It's gonna change the way these new generations see things.
Organizers have also pledged to recycle or reuse all items and venues. The Athletes' Village will be turned into condos and schools, a small town powered by hydrogen. This Yoyogi Stadium was initially built for the 1964 Olympics and was reused this year, with Tokyo keen to avoid the white elephant projects seen in other host cities. Meanwhile, despite the confusion caused by the pandemic, Tokyo 2020 has also left lessons for the future.
How to better manage risk, how to improve our virtual communications, how to come up with innovative ideas to engage people virtually. So all of this, of course, will have significant positive implications as we move into the future games.
The hope is, of course, that these will be a one-off Olympics, that no other games ever has to contend with being competed during the pandemic. Whether lessons can be learned, though, in Japan and elsewhere in the world, is a question that will last far beyond the end of Tokyo 2020. Mayu Yoshida, CGTN, Tokyo.